Thank you, Kat. I'm very excited to be here today. I'd like to discuss today how to build for your customers, right? How do we build good products that customers, that people love and find useful? Before I jump into the how we build really good products, I want to first take a step back and go focus a bit on the why. Why do we build products? We don't just build products for the sake of building products, right? We build products because we would like to give value to our customers, right? With products, our customers could become much better versions of themselves because together with the functionality of the product they can do things that they couldn't have done without the product, thus giving them value, and obviously they're willing to pay us for that service, right? So the reason why we build products is because we are making customers more powerful. We're getting them into this superhero mode where they can do much more than they originally could. Now, if you look at this screen, this picture, you might have seen it before. There's this equation like the customer plus the product equals to this awesome, better version of your customers, which is exactly what I've just talked about. Now, it is very intuitive, and of course here the product takes center stage in this image. It's very intuitive to think that, hey, if I build a bigger product, if I build a product that has, more features, that's going to make my customers more powerful, right? So surely a bigger product is a better product, but that's not always the case. If we go back a bit to the to this equation, this is not your typical summation equation, right? Just because there's the customer plus your product is this better version of the product, between the customer and the product there is this kind of magic going on, this connection, right? And if that connection works well, that is when the superhero comes out. So it doesn't mean that if we just increase the product's features, increase its functionality, it's gonna be a better result. Which is it can be quite counterintuitive, right? And there are multiple reasons why it's counterintuitive. Like why do we think this way, right? If better products, more features do not always result in more powerful customers, then why do we keep on thinking this way? So first off, as human beings, like out of good intention, as product managers, product designers, whoever we are, we always want to give more value to our customers, right? So we're always looking to add more things, right? I mean, obviously, you get more money, you buy more things. You get more time, you do more things. There's always that bias in our head that more equals better. So that's reason number one, and it comes from a good place, right? Because we're focused on our customers already and want to give them something better. Another reason why we tend to think in this manner is that we're always looking at what others are doing, at what our competitors are doing, right? We're not living alone. We're not building products on our own, and probably most people in this room are not actually in a monopolistic environment, i.e. they've got competitors, right? And we're always looking for inspiration, right? So we're always looking at what others are doing. And when you start looking at what others are doing and you see things that you're not doing, then that's that hits a nerve, and you start thinking, oh well, maybe I should be doing this. And this is another reason like why we're constantly thinking that, hey, we should add more, because there are other people who have things that you don't, but not knowing what you have that they don't. Another reason why we tend to think this way is that we are natural enthusiasts, we are natural visionaries, right? And what do we mean by that? We, as product people here in this room, most of us are probably always looking forward to use new tools that have new features, because we can visualize how those new tools, how those new features can be used in our lives to improve our lives, our productivity, whatever it is. But the majority of the market is not the same as us, right? Like the majority of the market is made up of people who prefer more complete solutions, who prefer like more conservative solutions, rather something that's been proven already, rather than something new, exciting, and like something that hasn't been proven maybe as yet. So, and this is explained really well in the book called Crossing the Chasm by Geoffrey Moore, and he basically goes on explains this in more detail. But the key thing here is that like a big majority of the markets are not innovators, are not considered as innovators, right? So obviously when we are thinking in one mindset, we have to keep in mind that not everyone is thinking in the same way. So that's a bit of an overview of why we build products and why maybe sometimes we tend to go around to start thinking of, okay, let's add more features because that's will build us a better product. But if that's not the right way, then so how do we actually build the right product for our customers? Hi, folks. I'm really excited to be here. My name is Luke. I'm a product manager at Hotjar. At Hotjar, we build behavioral analytics tools for businesses selling online. We basically help them understand what their users are really doing on their sites, right? Apart from being a product manager, I also love to travel. I'm a bird watcher and like to nature photography in general. And in my spare time, the little I have, I run a blog called Short Curly Products, where I share my thoughts on product management, on creating new products, etc. If anyone likes to chat, you can find me on LinkedIn, Twitter. Feel free to ping me, and yeah, just reach out in general. So yeah, that's a bit about me. So let's continue on how do we build the right product for our customers. And I think the first step, the first thing that we need to be doing is that we actually need to start listening to our customers, right? Before we build anything, we need to listen first. Now, this at the outset, this might feel a bit overwhelming. Okay, like I need to listen to my customers. Where do I start, right? And the first step, like take a step back and say, okay, just the first basic thing to do, just reach out to your actual customers. Ask them, hey, do you want to meet up for a coffee? Do you want to have a video call? Like, I'm really interested in what you do and how you use the product. So that's one way of one of the most important ways how to listen to customers, speak to them, right? Because you can empathize when you speak to customers directly. You can empathize more, and you could really put yourselves in the shoes of your customers and really understand what they're doing. But that's not the only resource out there, right? Not just customers. You can always find reviews of your product, for example, online. G2, Capterra. There are tons of sites where people are sharing their opinions of your products, the strong points, the negatives, etc. You can also find video tutorials of people explaining to other people how to use your product. And here is you find really valuable information on where are people struggling, like what do people have to explain to other people, and what do they point out in these conversations. You start, these are all conversations that there are out there. This is all information out there that you can take in, right? That you can take in to increase your information, your knowledge about your customers. Internally within the organization, you might have even more information than you think. In fact, you probably have more information than you think. This in this picture is our a part of our support team. This was at our meetup in the UK last June. What our support team do at Hotjar on a monthly basis is they produce a report for the products team on a monthly basis, where they highlight the top issues that customers are experiencing. What are the top negative things? What are the top things that people don't like? What are the top things that people actually like? What are the biggest struggles? What are the biggest misunderstandings? And they build this report, which is full of information about customers, about users, about how people feel about the product in general, its weak spots, its strong points, etc. So this is something like if you do have a support team, and really and truly any team that is customer facing, it can also be your sales team, your customer success team, very importantly. they are a wealth. They have a wealth of information, and if you ask, if you reach out, definitely you're gonna learn a lot about your customers from them as well. Obviously, you can use analytics tools like Hotjar, for example, plus other analytics tools that gather the metrics as you go along. As you build your product, you also like gathering metrics. But basically, this is also another source of information. How are your customers actually using your product, right? Knowing more, like knowing what they're trying to achieve and how they're using your product, makes you complete that picture of your customers, and obviously which you'll then use at a later stage to actually build the right product for your customers. Now, as I said, I could keep on going like on sources from where you can get this information, but and you will be gathering a lot of information as you're listening to customers. But I think the important thing is also to understand that if you're listening a lot, you could also be listening to a certain amount of noise as well, right? So one thing that would be really good to make sure that you're using your time efficiently is to focus on your ideal customers. Instead of listening to just everyone across the board, you focus on your ideal customers, on your ideal customer personas, and you get as much information from them. Your ideal customer personas are going to be aligned a lot with your product vision, so you know that you're building a good product for the right people that's in line with your product vision. Okay, and this is where we want to achieve where we want to get to. Sorry. So we're listening to our customers, but as you go along, as you do this exercise, you also need to make sure that you're not just listening, but you're also understanding your customers. And by that, I don't mean understanding what they're saying, right? In these conversations with customers, you're going to get a lot of information, but the important thing is that you really understand what makes your customers tick, right? What makes them angry, not just in your product, but also in their day to day, right? As they're doing their activities, their jobs, depending on what product you're building. And on the flip side, you also want to know what does success look like, right? If what do they think? Do your customers, what do your potential customers think that success looks like? How do they measure it? What makes them happy? Because that also gives you and starts to give you to build the picture of how do you want your product to be used to get these people, to get your customers to that point where they're happy and they're successful, right? And I really like this quote from Marty Kagan. Marty Kagan wrote a blog post a few years ago comparing like what good product teams do versus bad product teams. One quote is bad teams gather requirements from sales and customers. Now that doesn't mean you shouldn't be listening to sales and customers, but what Marty is saying is he's saying, as you're talking to people, they're going to tell you, they're going to suggest solutions to their problems, right? They know they have a problem, and obviously they're eager because they love your product, because they want to have a solution. They're going to suggest these solutions themselves, and you're going to find a lot of these, right? And the important thing is when you are getting this sort of information, you don't stop at that level, but you go a level deeper, and you really understand why are customers why are they proposing these solutions. So, and to do that, you really need to get your investigative hat out, right? Recently, I was listening to a podcast called Churn FM. There was Ryan Singer from Basecamp on it, and he was talking about, if you're an investigator and you're investigating a crime and you have a suspect who is a potential murderer, for example, you don't ask him, did you murder X? Obviously, the answer is going to be no. So you have to ask different questions, like where were you on the night of the whatever, like what were you doing, and you start building this picture, right? You start building this picture to try and really get to the root cause. You try, and it's the same thing with your customers. Obviously, we're not interrogating them for murder, but you're trying to build that picture, that picture of your customer, like you would you need to build a picture of knowing that what your customer is doing from the moment he enters the door to get to work in the morning. You know, what does he do? He gets a coffee first, then starts using this product, then waits 10 minutes for a report to run, then does, you know, these sort of thing, knowing him inside out, such that you know, when you're building a product, you might actually realize that you can solve multiple problems for this customer that the customer themselves might not have realized. So we're listening to them, and we've understood them. We really know what they're doing. We're empathizing with our customers really well. We're not just listening to what they tell us should be in our product, but we are listening to them to get that deeper understanding, and such that we can build a good product. And so with that information, you're going to start building. You're going to have a lot of information. You'll when you start doing this, you'll realize, and you're going to have a wealth of information, and prioritizing the things to build will get so much easier, and you're going to build it, right? And you might think that's the end of the story, but not really. We still need to make sure that our customers, now we're going to be building a good product, but now we need to make sure that our customers actually start using us, and that they end up loving the product, loving us, right? And they want to keep on using us. Now, something good to keep in mind is that, you know, nobody has a library at home of all the products they use that looks like this, right? You use a product nowadays, you purchase an online subscription, you expect the flow, the onboarding process to be so intuitive that you don't need any instructions. You know, similar when you buy a new phone, you take it out of the box, you switch it on, there's a couple of introductory screens, bam, and you know how to use the phone. And you have to take the same approach, especially if you're building a digital product, right? Because, you know, people don't have the time, and there are a lot of competitors. So most importantly, if people find the product at the you know the very first time they find the product to be quite difficult to use, quite confusing, then they might, you know, probably they're going to just give up on the product and just try something else, right? So this is something to keep in mind, that we need to be not just building good products, but building good products that help our customers, that setting them up for success, right? And this is why onboarding, the very first steps when a customer is using the product, when a user is using your product for the very first time, you need to make sure that you're doing this. You're setting them up for success, such that they have the pleasant experience, they get to experience the wow moment, the point where they experience the value for the first time out of the product, and then they can start evangelizing for, you know, the product, using it more and more, and so on and so forth. Now, so a summary of what we said. We're listening to our customers, we're really understanding them, we're really empathizing with them. We've built this picture of our customers, which is going to make it easy for us to build a good product. And finally, we're making sure, as we're building the product, we're making sure that we're building it in a way that we make them love us, right? We give them an easy way. We're setting them up for success for the first moments that they use our products. Now, just so that's really the crux of my message today, right? Those 3 points. If you are ever catching yourself, this is a process that I find really useful for me to go through, is if you are finding yourself thinking that, oh, we should be adding a new feature, or we should be growing our product even more by doing this, and that, I always ask myself these questions, like, are you sure, you know, am I sure that adding this new feature is going to is the solution for our customers' problems? Like, you know, with all the knowledge that I've gathered about my customers, am I sure that this is the solution? And just to give some examples, for example, Canva. You might have used Canva in the past, or you might be using it now. Canva is with a basic like not photo editing, but you can do a few editing, you know, if you've got low editing skills like I do, like the Canva is probably a good tool to use, right? But if a product that has more features is like a better product, then Canva shouldn't exist because there's Photoshop, right? But in reality, what Canva have done so well is they really understood the customers, the people, their target customers well, someone like me, and and they leveraged on it. And it's the same with, for example, TT phone, right? Why would you buy this phone if when there's an iPhone, right? This just doesn't make any sense. I didn't know about TT phone up until the point where I was preparing for this webinar. But in reality, like give an iPhone to someone who's 70 plus, and yeah, good luck trying to get them to use it. There's a specific use case. You should know your customers, understand them really well, and just focus on them. And finally, remember, like, competitors are not customers. They both start with a C, but they're not the same thing, right? Competitors, you don't know who your competitors are targeting. You have no idea about that. You don't know who your competitors are speaking to, right? They might be speaking to the wrong people. And most importantly of all, is that you don't know the mistakes that your competitors are making. So if you focus a lot on your competitors, you might risk doing the same mistakes that they did, instead of being a step ahead, focusing on the customer and getting it right in the first time, right? So just I always suggest to keep these things in mind. Focus on your customers, not your competitors, and not just on adding new features. Like, if you focus on these two things and not your customers, then I don't think you're much further off than if you're doing product management in a blind manner. So that's my message today. Thank you very much, folks.
Thank you, Luke. I have a few questions for you. First of all, because you talked a lot about listening and understanding to the feedback, to client feedback, or to audience feedback, and this remind me that when people were developing cars, if they asked their potential customers what they need, they would say quicker horses, right? So it's not always like that your customer knows what technology lies ahead, right? So can you show us, can you tell us an example from your life when you like anticipated the needs of your customers, maybe at Hotjar, or in like anything that comes to your mind?
Yes, absolutely. So in our products in Hotjar, we do heat maps, right? And heat map is basically, what happens is we take a screenshot of your page, of the page that you want to look at, and then we basically look at the number of clicks you get on different parts of the page, etc. So one of the biggest problems with heat maps at the time was the number of bugs that we used to have with different people's sites. So you can imagine, like, everyone, like hundreds of thousands of sites, each having their own HTML, not always written in the right way, but everyone expects the heat maps to work, right? And so we had this long list of bugs, and we were looking at this and saying, okay, like, this seems to be more common than the other one, and then we had a few ones, like, like, for example, if you scroll down and you have to wait the page to load, doesn't work. Sometimes they're just flaky bugs where the heat map screenshot doesn't work quite well. And basically we were just looking at this whole list of bugs and saying, okay, we've got like a team who's going to be just fixing bugs for the rest of their lives. In reality, when we spoke to the customers and we said, okay, like, we realized that customers they don't expect, well, they expect that the heat map is good, but they don't mind if they have to, if there's an issue, if they fix it, like it's, and the issue most often than not. So what we ended up doing was we actually rolled out a retaker of the screenshot instead of us doing the screenshot, we would tell them, hey, is there something wrong with your heat map? Go to your site by clicking here, and when you're happy that you have something really nice on your screen, just take it. You take the screenshot yourself. So we could have just kept on trying to fix a never-ending list of bugs, but this solved made things much better for our customers than just if we tried to fix everything.
Yeah, exactly. So thinking outside of the box, right?
Absolutely. And that's the crucial bit, that by knowing your customers, by really understanding them, it gets easier to think outside of the box. A lot of people think that you have to have a really, you need to be a really innovative person in the way you think to start thinking outside of the box. But in reality, all you need to do is to understand your customers a bit more, and it
Yes.
becomes much easier.
So it takes a lot of empathy to get creative in product building.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you talked a little bit about empathy too. So I'd like to, dig more into it. Do you have like any maybe advice or examples on how to be like a really good product person, really good product manager? What kind of skills would you expect or advise people to train to be a really good product builder?
Yes, so I recently wrote a blog post about how we are a handful of product managers, you could say. Okay, maybe not a real handful, but you get what I mean. Like, we're a small number of product managers, and we're building like these products that are going to be used by hundreds, thousands, millions of people, right? So I think the biggest issue is, like, how does a product manager think like a million users? And so I think that the number one important thing is empathy, as you said, like knowing your customers, really knowing who you're building for, and understanding, as we're saying, right? That, I think, that is crucial, because that allows you to be more innovative, as we were saying. But other than that, we also need to be very, I think, data driven, analytical, and not relying on on gut feel, or not relying on what we think is best, right? I have this mantra, like on my to-do list. I've got the background which says, your opinion is worthless, the market is the only valid opinion, right? And it's just a reminder that actually, like, it's the market who's going to define the success for you, it's not you. So if you're ever catching yourself saying, we should add this product because I think this is going to be really awesome for a customer, whenever that word think is there, then start questioning it. Go back. Why do I think this? Is it backed by data? Is it backed by what customers have told me? Is it backed by only what a single customer has told me, or is it backed by something that's been told to me by a few customers, and then I validated it with a larger group of customers? So to me, is empathy, knowing your customers, and being data driven, and of course internally, like, there's the whole stakeholder management, and to make sure you you're guiding the team, you're helping the team, and everyone in your team is aware towards where you're building towards a vision of your product. I would say those should be the strong points of a product manager.
Thank you very much, Luke. So thank you for your deck. Thank you for your answers to our questions, and I think that's it.
Thank you very much, Kat. It's a pleasure to be here.